Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up over the next 1 hour. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tables the economic survey in Parliament, projects the country's real GDP growth at 6.8 to 7.2% for FY 2027. India's chief economic advisor advocates manufacturing-led export growth to firm up the rupee-dollar equation. The European Union slaps fresh sanctions on Iran's interior minister, prosecutor general and military commanders over crackdown on mass protests. Tehran remains defiant. British citizens to be able to travel to China visa-free for under 30-day trips, announces Prime Minister Keir Starmer after meeting President Xi Jinping in Beijing. And world number 1 Arina Sabalenka beats Elina Svitolina 6-2 and 6-3 in the Australian Open semis to clash with Elina Rybakina in the finals. India's Economic Survey 2025-26, tabled in Parliament on Thursday, highlights a nation on the move, resilient, ambitious and firmly positioned as the world's fastest growing major economy. Take a look at this report.
India's Economic Survey 2025-26, tabled in Parliament, showcases a nation on the move. Resilient, ambitious and firmly positioned as the world's fastest growing major economy.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table a copy each of the following papers, Hindi and English versions. Economic Survey 25-26, Economic Survey 25-26 Statistical Appendix.
With GDP growth projected at 7.4% and gross value added at 7.3%, India continues its streak of leading global growth for the 4th year in a row. Fiscal credibility has been reinforced with stronger revenues and 3 sovereign credit rating upgrades in 2025.
As far as the growth rate that is needed, that mention of 8% is in dollar terms. So if you are able to grow at sustainably at 7% on average, there could be a given year in which it is higher or another year it could be lower, etc. In real terms in Indian rupee, then if you were to add the inflation rate that will be experienced in the United States, for example, minus the inflation rate in India, that is what will give you the dollar GDP growth rate. Historically, even in the last 40 years, India's dollar GDP growth has averaged about 8.7%.
The financial sector is healthier than ever, with gross NPAs at a multi-decadal low of 2.2%. Over 55 crore Jan Dhan accounts have deepened inclusion, and more than 12 crore investors, a quarter of them women, are participating in India's markets. Exports are surging. India's share of global merchandise exports has nearly doubled, while services exports hit a record US dollars 387.6 billion. Remittances reached US dollars 135.4 billion, and foreign exchange reserves climbed to USD 701.4 billion, covering 11 months of imports.
The long-term answer is manufacturing competitiveness, exports, and in the short run, some developments may not be in our control, but more importantly, the fact that the rupee is not reflecting the macro fundamentals and the sustained growth rate will definitely catch the attention of some investors, and that is when the tide will turn.
Food grain output rose to 3,577 lakh metric tons, while schemes like PM Kisan have delivered over 4 lakh crore rupees directly to farmers. Manufacturing is thriving, with PLI schemes generating 18.7 lakh crore rupees in production and creating more than 12 lakh jobs.
In rural development, 81% of rural households now have access to tap water. 2.9 crore houses have been constructed and 2.76 crore property cards issued under Swamitwa. When it comes to healthcare, 14.3 crores beneficiaries registered on the UWIN portal. 42.8 crore Ayushman Bharat cards issued, 1.8 plus lakh Ayushman Arogya Mandirs operational.
India's infrastructure is expanding rapidly. High-speed corridors now span 5,364 kilometers. And airports have more than doubled since 2014. Education and healthcare are advancing with new IITs, IIMs and AIMS. And maternal mortality has fallen by 86% since 1990. The Economic Survey 2025-26 tells a clear story. India is not just growing, it is transforming. With strong fundamentals, inclusive policies and bold investments, the nation is on course to become truly indispensable to the global economy. Bureau Report, DD India.
And dubbing India as an oasis of stability, Chief Economic Advisor and the author of the Economic Survey, V. Anantha Nageswaran, has said that India is experiencing sustained growth momentum and achieving significant milestones. CA Nageswaran addressed a press briefing on the Economic Survey 25-26 tabled in Parliament earlier in the day.
India is an indeed oasis of macro stability in otherwise a turbulent world. Numbers speak for themselves. Our GDP for this financial year is estimated, this is all IMF forecast, may differ slightly from what MOSPI has told us. IMF predicts 7.3% for the year ending March 2026. We have 7.4 from MOSPI. And the fund forecasts 6.4% for the next 2 years, 26-27 and 27-28.
And Nageswaran further highlighted the growth of overall infrastructure development and the business generated through them. He said that the numbers speak for themselves and these transportation modes are powering economic activity in the country.
Number of operational high-speed corridors in terms of length of kilometers in highways, just 550 kilometers, improved to 5,360 kilometers, and that too only up to December. The commissioning of railway networks from 1,500 to more than doubling to 3,100 plus. Port infrastructure having gone up in terms of cargo handled and the capacity of ports in terms of tonnage, the numbers speak for themselves. The growth rate of freight handled or goods handled by inland water transportation went from 18 million metric tons to 146 in the last 11 years, recording a compounded annual growth rate of 21%, and that's very impressive. So we are now tapping all sources of transportation mode to power economic activity in the country.
Also, in an exclusive conversation with DD India, the Chief Economic Advisor spoke about some of the key highlights of the Economic Survey, which was presented today. Let's take a look.
Could such low inflation also signal weak demand, and could it dampen growth momentum?
Well, it's possible, but if you look at the reasons why inflation has been very well behaved, largely it is due to the deflation in food prices, and also energy prices have been well behaved. And if you look at core inflation, it's around 2.9%. It is neither too low nor too high. It's quite comfortable. So I don't think we are having a situation of inflation being too low as to signal weak aggregate demand. And if you look at the growth rates we anticipate in the private final consumption expenditure, household consumption, we are expecting 7% growth this year. And that is not very surprising given the kind of direct tax, indirect tax reliefs that the government has given, putting more disposable income in the hands of the people. So it's not possible for me to say that our low inflation reflects weak aggregate demand conditions.
Is the fiscal position good for sustained public investment in infrastructure?
The fiscal position of the union government has been good, and union government also has been supporting capital investment in states with the special assistance scheme, SASCI. So in that sense, there is room for sustained capital investment on the part of the union government, but states can do better, and that is why we have made some observations regarding the unconditional cash transfers and how they are being done by sacrificing capital expenditure. And if that is addressed, then the combined capital expenditure of the union and state governments will definitely support continued infrastructure investment and upgradation as well.
Given the rising global trade fragmentation, how vulnerable then is India's external sector? Are the FTAs helping India competitively?
You answered it. In fact, the vulnerability is precisely what is being addressed through these multiple free trade agreements. And especially the one that we have reached with the European Union is a very important one, given the number of consumers and how big the size of the European Union economy is. And that is giving our exporters, particularly labor-intensive exporters, a lot of options in the light of the ongoing tariff uncertainties with the United States.
All right, so that was the Chief Economic Advisor speaking to DD India. Now, amid a challenging global environment, India continues to stand out as a bright spot for economic growth. The Economic Survey 25-26 notes robust infrastructure creation, expanding aviation capacity, growing renewable energy adoption, and a resilient external sector supported by strong FDI and record remittances. Take a look at this report.
India stands among the fastest growing major economies in the world and has recorded remarkable progress over the past 2 decades. The Economic Survey 2025-26 stated that World Bank ranks India among the top 5 countries globally in terms of private investment in infrastructure among low and middle income economies. India also emerged as the largest recipient of PPI investment in South Asia, accounting for over 90% of the region's total private infrastructure investment. This strong global standing is reflected domestically in the marked increase in project approvals by Public-Private Partnership Appraisal Committee. India has positioned itself as the world's 3rd largest domestic aviation market. The number of operational airports expanded from 74 in 2014 to 164 in 2025. In financial year 25, Indian airports handled 412 million passengers, a figure projected to rise to 665 million by financial year 31. Air cargo volume similarly witnessed significant growth, increasing from 2.53 million metric tons in financial year 15 to 3.72 million metric tons in financial year 25. This rapid expansion has been driven by transformative policy initiatives and reforms, including the RCS Udan scheme, the Greenfield Airport policy, airport modernization and capacity expansion programs, digital and technological initiatives such as DigiYatra, liberalized drone regulations, and key legislative measures including Bharatiya Vayuyan Vidhayak 2024 and the Protection of Interests in Aircraft Objects Act 2025, as noted in the survey. India's energy sector is undergoing a structural transformation, with renewable energy accounting for approximately 49.83% of the total power generation capacity as of November 2025. The country ranks 3rd globally in overall renewable energy capacity and installed solar capacity, and 4th in installed wind capacity. Total renewable energy capacity has increased more than 3-fold over the past decade, underscoring India's commitment to sustainable growth.
If renewable energy were to become a significant part of the energy picture, we need to understand the ramifications. The amount of material required and the energy required to therefore generate renewable energy should not be underestimated. We should go into it with open eyes.
The survey further observes that India remained the world's largest recipient of remittances, with inflows reaching $135.4 billion in financial year 25, thereby supporting stability in the external sector. Gross investment inflows remained robust at 18.5% of the GDP in financial year 25. India continued to be the largest recipient of gross FDI inflows in South Asia. The country emerged as the leading destination for greenfield digital investments between 2020 and 2024, attracting $114 billion. During April to November 2025, gross FDI inflows strengthened further to $64.7 billion. India's foreign exchange reserves rose to $701.4 billion as of 16th January this year. The Economic Survey underscores that India's infrastructure strategy in recent years represents a decisive shift towards scale, integration and quality, with sustained public capital expenditure acting as a powerful catalyst for economic growth. Despite a challenging global environment, India continues to be the fastest growing major economy, supported by strong agricultural performance and sustained momentum in the services sector, which have effectively offset the moderation observed in industrial activity. Bureau Report, DD India.
And we'll return to the economic survey in the latter half of the show with an expert guest, but still to come on DD India News Hour. India is set to host the second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting on Saturday. And Time magazine's analysis sees Bangladesh Nationalist Party chief Tariq Rahman as a frontrunner in the 12th of February national elections in that country. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has interacted with CEOs and experts working in the field of artificial intelligence or AI at his residence at Lok Kalyan Marg in New Delhi. The PM emphasized the need to embrace new technology in all spheres and to use it to contribute to national growth. He also urged the use of indigenous technology across key sectors. While speaking about the upcoming AI Impact Summit in February, the PM highlighted that all the individuals and companies should leverage the summit to explore new opportunities and leapfrog onto the growth path. He also said that through Unified Payments Interface or UPI, India has demonstrated its technical prowess, and the same can be replicated in the field of AI as well. In line with his vision of AI for all, the PM said that we need to create an impact with our technology as well as inspire the world. He also urged the CEOs and experts to make India a fertile destination for all global AI efforts. Union Minister for Electronics and Information Technology Ashwini Vaishnav and Union Minister of State for Electronics and Information Technology Jitin Prasad also participated in the interaction. The high-level roundtable saw participation from CEOs of companies working in AI including Wipro, TCS, HCL Tech, Zoho Corporation, LTI Mindtree, Jio Platforms Limited, Adani Connex, Nextra Data and NetWeb Technologies, along with experts from IIT Hyderabad, IIT Madras and IIT Bombay.
It was very inspiring to listen to the Prime Minister. His knowledge on AI and where it should be applied is very, very inspiring, and I think he was focused on how can we create solutions which the world will see it as the best. Right? He was really focusing on what is the unique selling proposition of India AI solutions.
This was the most inspired and motivational talk that I've heard from the world leader on AI. He spoke about create impact, but at the same time inspire the world. You know, the haves and have-nots in the world are going to be divided by the technology. So how can you use AI for the universal access, whether it's for health, for economic growth, for productivity?
Really impressed by the way the Prime Minister had his vision. He talked about we should not only impact but inspire the world, which is a very powerful statement. He also made statements about how we have to become self-reliant in India and how we have to ensure that the privacy of the citizens is protected while we are leveraging AI.
I think the way he talked about skilling India, building applications for India, building a sovereign infrastructure, and also helping the world. And he also talked about some of the great examples about how we were self-sufficient in terms of making India through UPI, how we could actually become an India AI export.
He gave us the inspiration and the motivation to work on problems relevant to our country, how to leverage this technology and make it to the benefit of every Indian. That is the mission, and also how to attain self-reliance in all this technology in our nation.
The fundamental take was positioning India and giving the character of India on the technology of AI and any infrastructure that we create to enable not just the infra part of it, but to enable the heart of what we are creating for the world. And I think in the message of the PM, that was the most important thing, of giving simple examples of showing how we will create AI infrastructure, but not just as an infrastructure, but as a real flesh and blood that will show Indian character and Indian ethos and Indian efficiency.
But what really impressed me the most was his feel for what AI can do for India. As he very aptly put, we know technology as an industry, but he understands India, he has a vision for the country, and is most enthused by what technology can do. And his call for welcoming technology, but not being dependent on others, but to develop our own capacities as a country. That has been most inspiring.
This was a very energizing meeting, and the Prime Minister's speech was indeed very erudite, broad-based. Prime Minister emphasized, for example, the importance of skilling our youngsters, not just for immediate needs, but also for future needs.
I think it was great to be here today and got to hear a lot of good things from the Prime Minister about how his vision for AI in India should be, and the push for a collaborative effort where we pull in all our resources and try to make India a leader at the global scale. So really aligned with that vision, and happy that we have a leader who is pushing for leadership at the global scale, and also willing to put in resources to enable that to happen.
Now turning to foreign shores, the European Union has stepped up pressure on Iran, imposing fresh sanctions on senior officials and Revolutionary Guard commanders over a deadly crackdown on nationwide protests. The move brings the EU closer to the United States, Canada and Australia, even as France backs listing the IRGC as a terrorist organization. Rupa Kumar Jha with this report.
The European Union on Thursday imposed sanctions on Iran's Interior Minister, Prosecutor General and Regional Revolutionary Guard commanders over a crackdown on recent mass protests. The 27-nation bloc in total added 15 officials and 6 entities to its asset freeze and visa ban blacklist, according to the EU's official journal. This comes as Western governments and rights groups, including Amnesty International, have accused the IRGC of playing a central and deadly role in crushing nationwide protests against Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei that left thousands dead. The move aligns the EU with the United States, Canada and Australia amid mounting concern over Iran's internal crackdown and regional military activities. France has publicly backed the terror designation. Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said the intolerable repression of peaceful protesters could not go unanswered, signaling a hardening of Europe's stance towards Tehran.
Le courage inouï.
France announced yesterday that it will support the inclusion of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on the European Union's list of terrorist organizations, because there can be no impunity for the crimes committed.
Les responsables de cette répression.
At the same time, tensions are rising between Washington and Tehran. US President Donald Trump has warned that time is running out for Iran to reach a nuclear deal as a US naval strike group moves into West Asian waters. Iran has responded with strong warnings. Its army chief has vowed crushing response to any attack, while state media says hundreds of strategic drones have been added to combat units. Russia said the potential for negotiation is not exhausted, warning that any use of force would plunge the region into chaos. Furthermore, Turkey has offered to mediate between Washington and Tehran, stressing diplomacy over military action. Rupa Kumar Jha for DD India.
Now, strategic and economic partnerships take the centre stage as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer visits China in a bid to reboot ties with the country amid tensions with the US. Outcomes over visas, whiskey and much else have been heartening for the UK, with the promise of Beijing opening a further to London. But the question is, will it cause heartburn in Washington?
UK and China agreed to develop a long-term and stable comprehensive strategic partnership as Chinese President Xi Jinping and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer met in Beijing. Starmer is on a 4-day official visit to China, the first by a British PM in 8 years. Xi said that the two sides needed to strengthen dialogue amid turbulent international situation.
China is willing to develop a long-term, stable and comprehensive strategic partnership with Britain, which will benefit the people of both countries and also the world. Your visit has attracted a lot of attention. The road of success is often strewn with setbacks.
Starmer emphasized that London and Beijing were working together on issues like global stability. The issue of jailed pro-democracy media mogul Jimmy Lai and persecution of Uyghurs in China were also raised by British Prime Minister.
Well, we raised those issues as you would expect. Part of the rationale for engagement is to make sure that we can both seize the opportunities that are available, which is what we've done, but also have a mature discussion about issues that we disagree on.
Starmer also announced that the two countries would jointly tackle gangs involved in trafficking illegal migrants. On the economic front, UK drug maker AstraZeneca announced $15 billion investment in China. This is the biggest deal announced so far during Starmer's trip. Ties between UK and China had deteriorated for years under previous conservative governments when London curbed some Chinese investment over national security worries and expressed concern over a crackdown on political freedoms in Hong Kong. But recent months have seen a thaw in ties amid tensions between UK and US over tariffs and Greenland. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, Germany, long seen as the economic engine of Europe, has been suffering under a weak economy for years, with things only slightly improving now. Berlin is out with its latest forecast. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and is joining me from Berlin to talk about it. Good evening to you, Lars, from Delhi. Are things finally getting better, turning around for Germany?
Thanks for having me. No, not really, or I should say not by much anyway. The latest economic forecast by the German government sees the country's economy growing by only 1% this year. That's according to the economy secretary Katharina Reiche. So there was an adjustment to a previous forecast that still expected growth of 1.3%. Now, that wouldn't have been much, but now the new number promises even less. And it's especially disappointing as last year saw a very similar trend, growth expectations of way over 1% initially, then lower forecasts, and finally a meager 0.2% when the books closed on 2025. That, of course, meant that Germany has just barely avoided a third year in recession. But a stagnating economy is obviously not enough after the weakness we have dealt with for years now. What Germany needs is real growth, and it's not coming, and it's apparently nowhere to be seen.
That doesn't sound very promising, but well, there's only hope that things will get turned around, especially with the trade deals that the EU has also been doing, the latest one with India having been finalized. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment from Berlin, Lars Holter. Now, India will host the second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting on the 31st of January, which is Saturday. The meeting will be co-chaired by India and the UAE. The Foreign Ministers meeting is happening after a gap of 10 years, the first meeting being held in 2016 in Bahrain. At the first meeting, the ministers identified 5 priority verticals of cooperation: economy, energy, education, media and culture, and proposed a set of activities across these verticals. The second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting is expected to build on the existing cooperation, expanding and deepening the partnership. India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting is the highest institutional mechanism driving this partnership, which was formalized in March 2002 when India and the League of Arab States signed an MOU institutionalizing the process of dialogue. A memorandum of cooperation was signed for the establishment of the Arab-India Cooperation Forum during the visit of then Arab League Secretary General Amre Moussa to India in December 2008, which was subsequently revised in 2013 in terms of structural organization. This is the first India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting to be hosted by India in New Delhi and will see participation by all 22 Arab countries, by their foreign ministers, other ministers, ministers of state and other senior officials and the Arab League. Now, an analysis by Time magazine has called Bangladesh National Party chairperson Tariq Rahman as a clear frontrunner in the upcoming general election scheduled for the 12th of next month. The US-based publisher's article noted that the polls were called after the ouster of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina 18 months ago, partly based on an interview with him published on Wednesday with the title Exclusive: Bangladesh's Prodigal Son. According to the article, while opinion polls show strong support for the BNP, concerns over dynastic politics and past corruption allegations linked to the party's previous rule also have surfaced, while highlighting challenges lying ahead of successful polls. The report also added that the geopolitical stakes are high, with Rahman advocating pragmatic ties with major powers, including the United States and India, while safeguarding Bangladesh's national interests. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll be speaking with our expert guest on how the Economic Survey 25-26 gives pointers on moving the Indian economy's strategic resilience to strategic indispensability.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and let's now take you back to our top story, which is about a steady, fast-paced growth forecast for the Indian economy in the economic survey tabled by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in Parliament on Thursday ahead of the Union Budget on Sunday. To talk about it, we have with us senior economic journalist Anil Padmanabhan. Good evening to you. Mr. Padmanabhan, what do you make of the kind of, things that the economic survey has noted, has really put out for everyone to consider, while also saying that there are fronts which India has to look out for to ensure that it can sprint a marathon towards becoming a developed nation by 2047?
Gautam, first off, I think this was one of the most candid economic surveys I have ever seen. And I've been covering the economic side of India for the last 4 decades. So first, hats off to the Chief Economic Advisor for such a comprehensive and kind of precise economic survey. Like you said, it has identified the good news upfront that India is now on a new growth trajectory. Earlier it was 6.5% trend rate, now it is at 7% trend rate of growth. And he has attributed this rightly again to the various economic reforms, structural as well as process, that India has undertaken, particularly over the last 5 years. In the last quarter, there was a reforms blitz. To quote the Prime Minister, it was a reforms express that India boarded. But having said all of this, he also flagged the fact that the global circumstances have never been so inclement. And they are going to stay that way for at least the medium term, which means India has to contend with a lot of externally induced challenges while dealing with the domestic issues. And there, what the economic survey identifies, like they did last year, was more of deregulation and more of reforms, basically make India more competitive so that it is able to not just export its way out of this current circumstance, but also compete with global goods and create a more efficient and productive economy.
Right. But when he talks about how India needs to shift from this emphasis on Swadeshi to strategic resilience and then to strategic indispensability, What does that really conjure up in your mind? What is being advocated?
Gautam, the strategic resilience part is exactly what India has achieved and demonstrated in the last 5 years, beginning with the COVID-19 pandemic. If you go back 5 years, India's first quarter in 2021 contracted by 23.9%. That was the economic devastation that the Indian economy suffered. Yet, India did not wilt. It undertook tough economic reforms and rebounded to among the fastest growing economies in the world, the major economies. And since then, it has continued to demonstrate the resilience against back to back unprecedented rounds of economic shocks. After that, you had the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Then you had the US Fed's inclement actions trying to curb inflation, bring up interest rates at a record spree. And then, of course, the supply chain disruptions that we have witnessed, the geo-economic fragmentation. So resilience India has demonstrated. What the chief economic advisor is saying that now India needs to change it to the next level. So you make yourself indispensable in the global supply chains and in global products, just like the way China has done. And it gives you a strategic seat on the table, but not, India being India, it will not use this strategic advantage to arm twist rivals or neighbors or enemies, which is part of the Indian foreign policy stance anyway. So what he's saying is that for that, you need lots of reforms, lots more of reforms, more at the state level and even the subnational level, which is below the states, talking of the cities, which is why he talks about the governance in the states, particularly cities, needs economic agency. The cities need to be livable. The cities need to be delivering the quality of life that the citizens expect. And remember that today, India's aspirations to a large extent have been realized. So the aspirations are growing. So the population is going to be more demanding greater accountability. So the economic survey is saying for this, you need a governance refix.
Right.
And he extends that to say that this reset has to extend even to companies.
Okay, and a reset also perhaps required for the rupee and US dollar equation because that has not escaped the notice of the chief economic advisor. Where the economic survey is concerned, the prescription is to boost export through manufacturing. Do you think that can really do it, and can India really achieve that?
See, Gautam, we are still early in this kind of strategy. The PLI has been substantive success in particular products, particularly electronics, which is now India's kind of a world player in this. But we have not seen that success demonstrate itself in other sectors similarly. So this is a learning curve. Like I said earlier, and like the chief economic advisor has also pointed out, that all of this is linked to India's ability to fix the structural fault lines. So that which will require a participation of all stakeholders, which is why he identifies citizens, the government, the companies. See, everybody has to step up to the plate at this point of time and do their own bit. And his argument is that manufacturing will grow if you invest so deeply and so diligently in growing India's basic capability and logistic capability. And please remember that the wherewithal is being put in place by the union government. We have already discussed labor reforms and a host of other reforms that are undertaking, including GST revamp in the last quarter. But remember, the union government has also inked 7 trade agreements, free trade agreements with 7 developed countries or cohorts, including the EFTA, which is the European Free Trade Association, consisting of 4 countries, including Switzerland. These basically, India's attempting to create a new trade route, a new composition of goods, de-risking India's current trade basket, and also putting the onus on Indian companies Indian small and medium sector to come up to speed, to be competitive enough to compete in these markets, to deliver and exploit the market opportunity that these free trade agreements have opened up for them.
All right, and let's hope that we can build upon it further with with more enabling components which are expected to be rolled out on Sunday in the Union Budget. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Anil Padmanabhan. Now, industry leaders continue to share their positive feedback on the India-EU FTA. Former President of United Planters Association of Southern India, K. Matthew Abraham, has said that it will strengthen India's global trade in plantation products.
The significance of the India-EU trade and technology partnership is very important for plantation sectors like tea, coffee, spices and rubber, because it allows improved and preferential access to Europe's regulated and high-value markets. With tariff reduction and regulatory alignment, this agreement will provide opportunities to increase exports in both volume and value-added terms for plantations produce. Moreover, our plantation products that already meet global sustainability and food safety standards will get access to move up the value chain, which will in turn increase options for others to also adopt and follow global standards for food safety and sustainability. This historic free trade agreement will strengthen India's global trade in plantation produce by securing better access to a premium market like Europe. Many competing countries already enjoy EU preferences. This agreement will help Indian tea, coffee, spices and rubber to compete internationally on quality, safety and sustainability, which will in turn improve our global reputation, thereby facilitating easier access into high-end international markets.
Business consultant Dr. Ranjit Mehta has also welcomed the free trade agreement finalization, calling it a major boost for India's economic growth.
Economic survey indicates that India's growth story is no more cyclical. It is structured, and macroeconomic indicators are well in place. I think that domestic consumption is very steady. Economy has resilience, and we are going to see the manufacturing sector bouncing back, and also the service sector is definitely an anchor in this whole story. And overall macroeconomic fundamentals remain very strong and resilient.
Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has said that energy transition has emerged as a fundamental driving force of the economy. He noted that India is actively moving ahead in deep-sea exploration. The minister also said that India will play a decisive role in maintaining global balance of energy demand and supply. Hailing the India-EU free trade deal finalization, Union Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas said the pact will provide a major boost to the Indian economy. DD India's Tabata Bhattacharya has spoken to the minister.
Joining me is Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri to talk about the India Energy Week. First, let me ask you, a lot of people met Prime Minister yesterday, all the head of the company CEOs. We are not talking about energy security in a big way, energy transition in a big way. You, at the helm, have been a pivotal moment for India. How do you see the whole journey now?
See, I think on energy, the narrative now has changed dramatically from the thing a decade ago. Today, what's happening is that the amount of energy availability has increased manifold. Today, more and more energy is coming. There are big finds in places like Guyana, Suriname, Brazil. Canada is a huge supplier. Plus, there are continuing old traditional OPEC players. Some of the oil which could be on the market is currently either static because of investment or because of other political sanctions, etc. So I think what we've done, thanks to the very decisive leadership of the Prime Minister. Let me give you two examples before I go into the long term. In the last 1 week, what has the Prime Minister done? He hosted the President of the UAE, had an hour and a half plus of one-on-one talks with him. The delegation spoke. We exchanged agreements. HPCL signed a long-term gas supply agreement. If you add what HPCL has already done and what IOCL has done, that alone adds up to about 4.5 million metric tons per annum which are huge. Secondly, apart from the UAE visit, he's just presided over the India-EU FTA. And let's not stop there. The Canadians are here, okay? The Canadians are coming into the game on a very big way.
Place and also exploration. Prime Minister both have spoken about that in a detail.
Both are the same thing actually, because how could you hope to move on the energy front if your areas where the likelihood of major reserves are huge? We are in the constant process of revising, rewriting as the laws have been rewritten, tweaking, and I think the point which the Prime Minister makes ever so often, look, if you have good ideas, and please bring them to us. If the global CEOs or anybody who comes to meet the Prime Minister makes a suggestion, somebody takes it down, and then when policy discussions take place, those ideas are then filtered, weighed, and implemented.
Much appreciated time, sir. So that was the Union Minister stating that, the energy sector is looking forward, and in due course of time, we will find these reforms yielding more dividend. With Campus Sandeep, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for GD India from Goa.
India on Thursday gifted the second tranche of election-related assistance to Nepal, handing over more than 250 vehicles to support preparations for the country's upcoming polls. The vehicles were ceremonially presented by India's Chargé d'Affaires ad interim, Dr. Rakesh Pandey in Kathmandu, in the presence of Nepal's Finance Minister, Rameshwar Prasad Thadal, at the Ministry of Finance.
To the Government of Nepal as a gift from the people and Government of India. It may be recalled that the first tranche of election-related assistance was handed over to the Government of Nepal on 20th January 2026. Total assistance provided by India will eventually include about 650 vehicles, which will continue to be delivered in successive batches in the coming.
And in his remarks, the Nepalese Finance Minister mentioned the long-standing cooperation and friendly ties between India and Nepal.
Whenever we find something in short form, if we call them, they are always ready and willing to support Nepal. So that is a huge gesture. So the relationship between India and Nepal is not just about never. It is a very reliable and trusted development partner. So I thank you, Rakesh ji and Government of India on this occasion, and expect that in the future our bond of friendship.
Now, India has formally submitted Meghalaya's living root bridges to UNESCO, marking a major step in recognizing indigenous heritage from the Northeast. Meghalaya's Chief Minister Conrad K. Sangma announced on Thursday that the nomination dossier was handed over in Paris by India's ambassador and permanent representative to UNESCO, Vishal V. Sharma, to Director of World Heritage Centre. The nominated cultural landscape extends across the Khasi and Jaintia hills and showcases a remarkable living tradition developed by and sustained by indigenous Khasi and Jaintia communities over centuries. The site will be evaluated for possible inclusion on the UNESCO World Heritage List during the 26-27 cycle. The 30th edition of a Broadcast Engineering Society Expo, that is BESS Expo 2026, was inaugurated by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Secretary Sanjay Jaju on the 29th of January in New Delhi. The three-day event's theme for this year is Broadcast Intelligence Innovation, Make in India for the World. The conference aims to focus on the transformative role of artificial intelligence in media and broadcasting. It will also include a large-scale exhibition showcasing cutting-edge broadcast technologies, indigenous innovations, and global solutions. Speaking on the occasion, Secretary Jaju said that this is the artificial intelligence age. It's going to bring huge changes in every segment, more so in the broadcast sector.
The artificial intelligence age. It's right there on our face. It's right there on our face. Every segment both on the positive side and negative side, is going to be impacted. But our segment, the media and the entertainment landscape, is definitely going to undergo a huge transformation with artificial intelligence coming in. Whether it is still super intelligence or small intelligence or basic human level intelligence, I am not too sure, but the fact is what's happening currently is mind-boggling.
India's national song, the priceless intellectual and cultural heritage, continues to inspire humanity as we commemorate its 150 years. On the occasion of India's 77th Republic Day, a beautiful and moving performance of Vande Mataram was presented by Slovene Children's Choir in Ljubljana. Listen in. Definitely deserved that applause. Now let's turn to sports, and in the Australian Open, the stage is set for a high-octane clash as world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka is set to face 5th seed Irina Svitolina in the women's singles finals. Sabalenka stormed into the final after thrashing 12th seed Irina Svitolina in a one-sided semis on Thursday. Sabalenka and Svitolina entered the last four clash as arguably the two most in-form players of the season. Sabalenka and Svitolina won the Brisbane International and ASP Classic respectively and earned their semi-final berths without losing a set. However, on this occasion, Sabalenka showcased her dominance by securing a resounding 6-2, 6-3 victory over Elena. Meanwhile, 5th seed Elena Rybakina bowed into her third career Grand Slam final with a win over Jessica Pegula. Rybakina, targeting a second Grand Slam crown, fought her way into the title match by downing the American 6th seed 6-3, 7-6. Rybakina will seek vengeance in the final as she collides once more with Sabalenka, who snatched the Australian Open title from her grasp in a gripping 2023 summit clash. Now, New Delhi's Vijay Chowk echoed with melodious Indian tunes as bands of the tri-services and the Central Armed Police Forces played an array of foot-tapping melodies before a distinguished audience comprising President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan, Prime Minister Narendra Modi Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and other dignitaries, as well as a members of the citizenry. Now, the ceremony began with the mass band's Kadam Kadam Badhaye Ja, followed by melodious tunes by the bands of the CAPF and the tri-services. Squadron leader Lima Pokpam Rupchandra Singh was the principal conductor of the ceremony. Another interesting highlight of the ceremony was that its seating arrangements were named after various Indian instruments such as bansuri, damru, ektara, mridangam, nagara, pakhavaj, santoor, sarangi and so on. The beating retreat ceremony is a solemn and dignified tradition that brings the Republic Day celebrations to a close and stands as a symbol of national pride and military heritage against the grandeur of Vijay Chowk. The ceremony culminated with the ever popular patriotic tune Sare Jahan Se Acha, played by the buglers. And just as the buglers sounded the final patriotic tunes at beating the retreat ceremony at Vijay Chowk in New Delhi, just a few kilometers away, the festive spirit of the 77th Republic Day was still palpable at the residence of Romanian Ambassador to India, Sena Latif, in New Delhi. DD India's Taneja reports.
Music is the great uniter, an incredible force, something that people who differ on everything and anything else can have in common. Music breaks through barriers and it brings us together even when everything else seems to divide us. A cultural evening celebrating the spirit of the 77th Republic Day saw the incredible Romanian-Indian cultural partnership honoring unity, humanity, sustainability, freedom and harmony.
It's really a privilege, of course, to celebrate India's Republic Day. We have 77 years of amazing, solid relations between Romania and India, and we've also just celebrated Romanian National Day of Culture in January. So we thought these two amazing auspices are there to host this evening with Dr. Sanjana John and other friends that show how music is the common language, one of the common values we share between Romania and India and the entire world.
We've already started a small wave of peace in the world. I don't know, it's a great, at this age, to come and to be part of a group like this is very special.
कल्चर एक ऐसी चीज़ है जो बहुत सारे लोगों को एकजुट करती है. आज उसमें से एक इवेंट है और बिकॉज मैं एक एक्टर भी हूँ, एक प्रोड्यूसर भी हूँ, तो मुझे लगा कि it's an honor for me to be a part if Her Excellency is personally invited.
Further, Sena Latif, Romanian ambassador to India, called the just concluded India-EU FTA an important milestone.
And it's not only the trade, I think it's actually a symbol for mutual trust. I think it shows now our companies, of course, will come here, Indian companies will go to Europe with much more trust because they see the amazing endorsement that was at high level, like you said, for Republic Day. So this will definitely lead to more projects in defense, in people-to-people contacts, in academic. There is so much that this is opening the way to.
The special evening of music was attended by several European envoys, Indian ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, and friends of cultural diplomacy. Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
On that music note, that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.